Hello, everyone. Gonna switch my screens around here. Wait for everyone to join in. Awesome. I see some of you are joining in now. Introduce yourself in the chat. I want to know who's here with us today. I'm gonna just go ahead and get started with a little bit of background on today's topic and give everyone a minute or so to join us. So thank you for tuning in to today's webinar, which is So You Want to DIY Your Website. Let's see, go to the next slide here. So I know starting up a new band or your own business is no joke. And when you're doing that, you usually don't have money to hire a web designer. So today's webinar is my website 101 crash course for you guys. And I've been coding and designing websites since 2010. So I've got some advice when it comes to websites. But I'll back up a little bit and tell you how I got here. So I started playing piano when I was 7 and instantly fell in love with music. And I know that's not related to websites, but it's actually how my story began. And I knew when I was in elementary school that, when I grew up, I'd be involved in music. I just didn't know what that would look like. So fast forward 20 years and here I am. I work full-time for myself out of my home office and absolutely love it. Hence my company name, Designing the Row. I design websites for the music industry. And if you're not a Nashville native or familiar with the music business, we often refer to Music Row as The Row. So that's how I came up with the name for my business. Last year in 2016, I transitioned from working full-time in artist management to working full-time for myself and launched over a dozen sites in 2016 for musicians and industry creatives. A little side note, if you're tuning into this webinar today or watching the replay, but you aren't involved in music, don't worry, because this webinar content I have lined up still applies to you too. And you can see down there in the bottom right of these pictures, that's my husband, Chris. And we met here in Nashville and have been married for almost 3 years. And I'm so excited to announce here on this webinar for the first time that he will be joining me live for the next webinar. Every time he applies for a new job, he gets it. So I've asked him to come share his insight with us next Saturday, because I know if you're trying to tune into a webinar about finding a new job that you most likely can't join on a weekday. So webinar Wednesday will have to be webinar Saturday for a week. He'll be talking all about how he interviews confidently, plus ways he stays motivated on a daily basis. And I can't wait to introduce him to y'all. So that's me, and that's what's coming next week. I hope you guys are able to hear me and see my screen. Let me know in the comments if you're having any problems. And if not, I think we're good to go. If you're just joining us, introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Leave a link to your website. Whatever you want to share with us today is awesome. So I'm going to go to this next slide here. I've got a couple stats for you from hostingfacts.com that I want to start out with. So can you believe this? Like, how many websites would you have thought that there are? 966 million websites. That's crazy town. So what about this? Did you know that mobile media time has exceeded desktop media time? We're going to talk a little bit more about how to take advantage of that later. And check out this too. 2.9 billion Google searches per day with 2.7 blog posts published every day. That's ridiculous. So let's talk about you now, because with stats like these, you've got to stand out online. So you're here today because you know a good website is important, but you're at a stage in your career where you need to DIY it. Okay, I got you. I know what it's like trying to turn your ideas into reality, and that's why I want to share these tips with you today. As a website designer, I obviously believe that your visual branding can make or break you in this online and digital world that we live in today. And I also think with just a little knowledge, you can make your DIY website look less DIY, and that is my goal for today. So during this webinar, I'll be talking all about platforms, hosting and domain names, why you need a call to action, mailing list integration, and my favorite designer tips. And maybe you're already like, what the heck is some of that? Don't worry, I didn't understand anything until the end of my second coding class in college. So trust me, I know what it feels like for all of this to sound like a foreign language. So before we get started, I just want to encourage you to turn off all distractions, close out any other tabs you might have open, flip your phone over, whatever you need to do to make sure you're focused and just ready to take your website to the next level, like right now as I go through these action items. So if you're ready, I'm ready. I'd still love to hear who's joining in. Drop your name and website in the chat. So with that, let's get started with platforms. So there are various website platforms such as Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, ReverbNation, Weebly. I'm sure there's a whole lot more I'm leaving out, but for the purpose of this webinar, I'll be talking about Squarespace. I know this can be a highly debatable topic for some people, but the reason I go with Squarespace are because my clients always want three things. One is they want a mobile-friendly site, and all Squarespace templates are mobile-friendly right off the bat. Two, the front end of Squarespace is drag and drop, and it's very easy to use without any coding knowledge. And three, Squarespace has a very clean and modern look, which I like, and my clients tend to as well. I've built sites from complete scratch, and I've used WordPress, but ultimately I go with Squarespace because it's easy for my clients to use once sites are launched, and that just makes everyone happy. When we get to the designer tips, I'll be showing you a little behind the scenes action on Squarespace. So I'll go into more detail on this in a bit. I just want to start with this so that we're all on the same page. Hostings and domain names. To have a website, you are going to need both. And I've come up with an analogy that I tell all my clients. So think about your house. You have to have land to put your house on. And your house is useless without the land to put it on, right? So think of hosting as the land and the domain name as the house. I'll say that again. So hosting is the land and your domain name is the house. Both are useless without the other. Hosting is essentially your property and your space on the web, and your domain name is your address. So for example, my domain name is www.designingtheroad.com. So going back to Squarespace, it's not just a bunch of pretty templates. It also provides you the hosting part of the equation. They can provide domain names, but if you have a domain name, say through GoDaddy or Network Solutions, Bluehost, or wherever, that works too. So you can use the two together. If you have any domain name hosting questions, just let me know, because I know this is always super confusing. Awesome. So let's talk about call to actions. This is where we really get into the good stuff. I want you to think about this for a minute. What one thing do you want viewers to take action on when they visit your site? Just one thing. Do you want them to check out your tour dates or visit your merch store, sign up for your newsletter? It's up to you, but you need to pick one, and just one. On average, at least for the websites I manage, viewers spend about a minute and a half total on a website. So while you may have multiple pages, you need to get your point across quickly and clearly. If you want people to sign up for your newsletter, create an announcement bar to draw their attention from the start, or add it as your main action item on your homepage. Add it to your footer so it shows up on every page. And give your viewers an incentive to sign up for your list. So basically, pick a clear call to action and make it obvious in several different ways that it's your objective. I'll show you a few examples of this in a minute. I want to move through these slides and points so we can get to the part where I show you how it all works. And then I'll take some of your specific questions too. So let's talk about mailing list integration. So I was just mentioning about your clear call to action, and I recommend, if you can't come up with one, that you make it for viewers to sign up for your mailing list. So like we just talked about with platforms, there are all sorts of different email marketing systems. For this webinar, let's talk about MailChimp. It's free to get started with, which makes it perfect if you are in the DIY stage of setting up your online presence. And I'm sure you've heard this said before, but unlike social media, your mailing list is completely yours. It won't change algorithms on you or anything like that. And all of the subscribers are there for you, and you can talk to them directly in their inbox. And that's powerful these days. So basically, what I want to get across to you here is that if you don't already have a mailing list, get on that like yesterday. Second, add your sign-up form to your website in multiple places. Third, give people an incentive to sign up for your mailing list. So maybe that's a free download or a coupon code to your store, something that will benefit them. And when you send out emails, the same applies. Don't make it all about you. People don't have time for that. Send emails with content that can either inspire or benefit the reader. In a minute, I'll show you how easy it is to connect MailChimp and Squarespace. If you aren't on Squarespace yet, I don't think you're going to believe just how freaking easy it is. So, designer tips. Before I dive into showing you some site examples, I have 5 designer tips for you to keep in mind when you're DIYing your website. So, number 1, your logo should be the biggest text on your website. I hate when I go to a website and the person's name or business is tiny, and then they have this huge font that just takes over and has no meaning. So you want people to know where they are. So make your logo the biggest place or the biggest text on your website. Second, keep your colors and fonts on brand with your most recent album or photo shoot, or just to match your logo to create consistency. And third, stick to 3 fonts or less. I think that is pretty self-explanatory, but just keep it simple and don't give people headaches with all sorts of different fonts. 4, I want you to leave room for white space. And when I say white space, I don't literally mean white. I just mean to give your content space and don't cram everything together. And 5, finally, update your content consistently. This will give viewers a reason to continue coming back to your site. So that's my quick crash course for you, Website 101. If you have any questions, drop those in the chat box. But I'll start with a few questions that I got via email, and then I'll show you how to, I'll show you a few call to action examples, as well as how to add your MailChimp sign up form to Squarespace. So I got an email that said, I would love to know the pages and info that a website should have in the most basic form without having to update much. That or how and advice on having a one-page website. My deal, I know I need one as a homepage base. Let me read that again. My deal is I know I need one as a home base for my media and socials, as well as looking more professional, but I'm not doing a bunch of shows right now that I need a page dedicated to that, nor do I want to have to consistently update content so that my site doesn't look abandoned, if that makes sense. So I'm going to change my screens here. Here is Manon's website. It's this is about as basic as it gets. So Manon is working on recording music and building up her brand, and she is not ready for a whole website yet, but she wants people to be able to find her social media platforms and get a little preview of what she's working on. So this is about as basic as it gets. And we made this for her on Squarespace. But you can see, like I was talking about, we picked two colors, the white and the maroon, that we pulled from the flower on her jacket. And you can listen to 3 songs, subscribe to her email list, or find her on social media. So that's one way to not have to update anything, but to still have a simple website. And now I'll show you Brian Sutton's website. His is a little bit more than a one-page website, but I think he could actually get away with a one-page website. So you can see he has 6 pages up here, but for each page, I've included a little bit of the info on this homepage. So he's got a scrolling banner here for some visual interest. Then you come here and you can read about Brian. So you can get a quick 2-paragraph intro to Brian, and if you want to read more, you can do that. You can see his next couple upcoming tour dates, but if you want to see them all, you can continue to the tour page. And then this is a little banner that we created for his new album. And down here is about his online guitar teaching. And then we have his social media and his subscribes. So without having to click anything, you can just scroll and you know about Brian, where he's going to be, about his new album, about how you can learn from him, and how you can interact with him. And if you want to know more, then you can sign up. So I think this is a really good formula if you're looking for something simple and you don't want a whole bunch of pages. And then I got another email earlier that said she has a free, I don't even know if I'm saying this right, Weebly account linked to her domain name under GoDaddy. What would you recommend to someone to bump their website up to the next level? Stay with Weebly, upgrade, choose another route, etc. So if you haven't figured out yet, I suggest that you switch to Squarespace. It's not free, it costs a little bit, but not a lot. You can pay month to month if that helps as well. And so all these websites I'm showing you are Squarespace. And if you've been to my website before, this one or designingtherow.com, that one is also Squarespace. So you can kind of get a feel of how simple you can make something or how intricate you can make something. The second part of that question I got in the email was, how does someone go about embedding Instagram feed into their website? I can't seem to find any way to do this. So I'm logged into my site here, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. So I'm going to come down and edit this section right here. And I'm just going to delete this, and I'll show you how to do it. So on Squarespace, you can see these little, I don't know what to call them. I just call them the little gray button or line. You click on that, and it comes up with all these options called blocks. So if you scroll down here to the bottom, you can see a variety of social options. So I'm just going to click Instagram. And since I've already connected my account on the back end so that it has the logo in my social links, it knows who I am. So I'm just going to say I want, let's say, 9 items. Make it look kind of like Instagram. And then I'll click design. I'll keep it on the square. I always post squares, but if you don't and you want a consistent look, you can crop your images or change the size here. How many thumbnails per row? So you can have like little tiny pictures, or like I've made it here look like actual Instagram. You can change the padding around the images. I usually just leave the settings how they are, but it's pretty simple. Then you can choose, you can either, if someone clicks on the pictures, you can open them up in a lightbox or open it in a new window and apply and save, and that's it. So let's see, what else can I show you guys? Let's go. So here, this is what Squarespace looks like when you log in. It'll have this dashboard over here to the left. And most of the time you'll be spending your time editing things in Pages and Design. Once the site launches, you won't really need to use the settings. But I'll show you kind of behind the scenes of my pages. Let's see. So down here I have my home page, and you can see that by the little house icon there. And I have it down here in the not linked so that like Spotlight posts wouldn't show up in my main navigation up here. I just want it to say home. So each of these little sections is its own page. And all you have to do to edit it is just hover over it, click edit. You can type here. It's really what you see is what you get on Squarespace, and it makes it so simple. So I guess here I can show you how to, I told you I would show you how to add MailChimp. So just like we did for Instagram, click this little gray line, and I'm going to come down here to newsletter. And it'll pop up this newsletter block, this subscribe block. So you can change the text here, or you can just take it out completely. I respect people's privacy, but I always take out that line just because it seems like clutter to me. And I like to require the name field, so when I send people an email, I can address them by name. So to connect it, once you have your box the way you like it, come over here to Storage and click to connect to MailChimp. And it'll pop up a box here. You log in to MailChimp. You can see here it's connecting. A little slower than usual. But once it connects, it'll come up here with a box, kind of where my little cursor is. And you can choose from your MailChimp account which list you want people to be subscribed to. So maybe you have a list for people who signed up to know about your album, and maybe you have a list for your online orders, and you can pick exactly which list you want people to go into. Of course, now when I'm trying to show you this live, it's not connecting quickly for me, but usually it happens in just a second. Over here on the Advanced tab, you can say thank you, like check your inbox for your free download, or whatever you want to say there. You can change the sign up button to like yes please. When you apply, it still wants me to add the storage. There we go. So select list. So you can see I have a couple lists here. Just pick one, and then it's linked directly, and you don't have to worry about it again. If you don't want to use MailChimp, you can also connect it to Google Drive and create a new spreadsheet, and all the signups will go directly to your Google Drive doc. I don't use MailChimp anymore. I've upgraded to something called ConvertKit, which you'll see this is the sign up form here. Let's see, what else can I show you guys? How about I'll show you, I got Justin Townes Earl's site here. He recently just announced his new album. So we created the site with this splash page. So when you come here, you're first greeted with this play button. So we really wanted everyone to watch this video that correlates with his new album. So either you're going to watch this video, and if not, then you really only have two other options. So you can go straight to order the album or enter the site. So this is kind of a way to get really specific about your call to action. So if you entered the site and you decided not to watch the video or check out the pre-order, you come here and the first thing we show you is Kids in the Street, available now for pre-order. So we're going to hit you again with our call to action and give you a button here to pre-order. And then if you didn't watch the video, we're going to hit you with the video again. Here's the video. And it's got this cool feature in Squarespace where you can link your YouTube video to play in the background, and then you click the button and you'll go over to YouTube. So that's what I'm talking about when I want you to do your call to action multiple times. And here's an example of the subscribe in the footer. So on every page, this footer will show up with the subscribe. So if you don't subscribe on the home page, maybe when you go to the about page, you read all about him, and then you decide, okay, you know what, I am going to subscribe. I really like what he's doing. Okay, so that's, you got to hit people multiple times with your call to action to get your point across. So I've showed you Man Insight. Here's the example of the very simple music player one-page website with the option to subscribe or go to socials. Brian's website has multiple pages, but I've pulled info out from each page so you can get a gist of the whole site just by scrolling down on the home page. On Justin, we talked about the call to action being very strong. Showed you here on my site kind of the back end of how to use this pages. So I can also show you like how easy it is to add a page. So you click this little plus button and you get this pop up, and all you do is add the page. And if you have a page that you want to reorder, all you have to do is just click and drag it. And then you can see when I hover over that, the musicians industry apply. So let's say I want apply industry musicians. So hover over besties again, and there you go, apply industry musicians. So Squarespace is so simple, drag and drop, easy as it gets. And if you guys don't have any other questions, that's what I got prepared for you today. So I hope if you aren't already on Squarespace that you will give it a chance, because I think it'll make your DIYing a lot easier, a lot more fun, and it'll look amazing. It'll look great on mobile, and it's just easy. So yeah. I hope I'm checking out, let's see. I'm checking out the right page. I don't see anybody asking a question, so if you don't have any questions, I will say goodbye. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.